So while browsing the joke weapons of Skyrim, I noticed one of the available weapons you can use is a pickaxe. Bit of an odd weapon when you have more serious weapons like throwing icicle spears at high velocities or swords forged from the hearts of demons. The pickaxe more serves as a tool rather than a weapon. It all sounds all fine and dandy as a weapon restricted run, just use pickaxes and call it a day, but wanting to take it a step further and doing a soft callback to a let's play I did 10 years ago that was rightfully deleted, today we see if it is possible to beat Skyrim as Steve from Minecraft. Rules are going to be a little more strict this time rather than only using pickaxes as my only weapon, but I can only use armors found in Minecraft, which is leather, iron, gold, and diamond. At least last I remember, since it's been 10 years since I last played Minecraft. Everyone knows gold is terrible in Minecraft, and there is no diamond armor available in Skyrim, so I'm going to be restricted to iron armor for the entire playthrough. And to spice things up, I cannot use shields or have anything in my left hand. I can only have the pickaxe out at all times. Sure, you can argue that Steve is able to use shields, but once again, last time I played Minecraft, shields weren't a thing yet. No companions as usual, and I'm not allowing myself to clip into the Thalmor Embassy and skip half the story, or going through the back door of Afton to grab the Elder Scroll like last time. With that all out of the way, let's load into a new seed. Well, I have had worse spawn locations than in the back of a wagon going to my execution. I did my best to create Steve, but I lacked the creative know-how to make him. I just made my regular Breton, which I chose for the naturally high magical defenses, since half the bosses are dragon for the main story. Look as square as I can. Heading into the Helgen streets, and things are proceeding a lot faster than last time. Then again, anything is faster than over-encumbered. In no time at all, I'm inside the keep. I loot a few of the guards, but since I cannot attack anything since there is no pickaxe at this time, I just went right past everything and emerged outside of Helgen. Took about 15 minutes, which is much faster than the 30 from over-encumbered video. I book it to the standing stones and pick the warrior stone for the added skill learning, since I'll really be needing the levels since I'll be using a terrible weapon for the entire run. You would think that beelining into the Ember Shard mine for a pickaxe would be a good idea, but that wouldn't be necessary. Alvor was kind enough to sell a pick for dirt cheap, might I add. I buy that and a pair of iron boots, then hit the road to Whiterun. Normally I take the time to clear out Bleakfall barrels at this time, but instead I wanted to gain more resources before going underground. The first instinct for Minecraft is to hit trees for wood, so I do that. I was wailing away at this tree for a minute until I remembered that pickaxes aren't good for trees. Disheartened, I make my way towards Whiterun, testing out the pick on some low-leveled wolves. It does alright I guess, but again, first enemies outside Helgen. I tried to pick up some cabbage for the veggie soup. Turns out I never make veggie soup throughout the run, but oh well. Get stopped by some fur enthusiasts, then make to Dawnstar for my usual opener. However, I had a weird glitch where my character would not enter the cart, and when I landed in Dawnstar, my camera was locked into one place. It would not move, and my character would run around like crazy in place. I tried everything, entering shops, getting arrested, but none of those would work, so I had to reload a save. Problem was that my last save was right as I exited Helgen. From the top. Respawning from Helgen, nothing really changed in my opener, and Dawnstar's chest had some nice loot, but what I was really after are some soul gems, free armor, and enchantment stuff for later. Call it a glitch? I call it an intended feature from the devs since they could have patched it out like they did with Starfield. All kitted out, time for Bleakfall's Barrow. Okay, never mind, going to Whiterun to pick up a horse. To Bleakfall's Barrow! Okay, never mind again. Instead of going to the barrow, instead I begin climbing the opposite mountain to the throat of the world. Obvious why. Nothing in note for the climb, we end up skipping past the frost hurl that normally ambushes you, and we make it to the highest place near the ceiling cap, and get the most important pickaxe, the notched pickaxe. If you're playing as Steve, this is a must-have for obvious reasons. I test the new weapon out on some ore hoping for diamond, but all I get are some malachite and an amethyst. They must have had my malachite well after I stopped playing. Oh well, now it's Bleakfall's time. Going up the mountain, there really wasn't much going on. The low-level bandits outside didn't pose much of a threat, and they all go down without much fuss. Things do get a little rough inside, as the wounded frostbite spider ends up doing a number on me. Didn't kill me with the poison, does eat through my health pretty quickly. Getting further in, we encounter more familiar mobs being the zombies. Much like Minecraft, some well-timed swings in the head will take them out, though doing a number on me. The Draugr boss at the end wasn't too bad. Some good block badges helped out a bit. During the encounter, I noticed a big problem with the notched pickaxe. Not per se the damage, though yes it is pretty pathetic. Rather, by the time I'm finished with the Draugr boss, I used up half the weapon's charge, So yeah, I'm going to need a replacement pretty soon and a reliable source of soul gems to keep it all stocked up. Outside the diamond, I praise the ability to fast travel after not being able to last run. You begin to appreciate the small things. In Wet Run, I hit up the usual vendors to sell some loot and seeing if they had any decent potions and enchantments for the first dragon fight. Nothing really catches my eye, so I help Dragon's Reach, talk to Ballin, and handing in the Bleak Falls Barrow quest. I take the time to disenchant some unused gear, and put a couple enchantments on, buy some potions, and exit town for the first dragon fight. This dragon fight I get a little more action on, but since I'm not letting myself use a bow despite being able to have a bow in Minecraft, Once a dragon lands for certain, I lay into it, and for some reason it never saw me as a threat but rather still focused on the guards. Well, that makes my life way easier. We beat our first dragon. Funny, I don't remember any dragons besides the end dragon. Oh well, gotta love updates. Nothing much happened afterwards wrapping up my first session, except somewhere around here I find a Fortify one-hit enchantment, which I apply to everything I can enchant, which will help out the DPS department immensely. The decision to fortify everything with one-handed is probably the best decision I made in the run, as it helps out the DPS immensely. I talked to the Jarl, being able to skip way after the dragon dies, so it was fun getting yelled at by the Greybeards and talking to the Jarl at the same time.
You like to count on your dragon, so it's true. Masters.
Afterwards, I returned to High Hrothgar, headbutted Arngar for the hell of it since I can actually do it in this run, get Whirlwind Sprint, then departed to Ustengrav. Heading into Ustengrav, nothing much happened getting here. I misremember the potion shop in Morthal, but oh well. Inside the dungeon, I lane to the first Necromancer I see and can see the damage increase firsthand. Things are going to get so much better now, hopefully. Deeper in Ustengrav, I run into our first skeletons. These skeletons are as annoying as remember, sniping us with their bows. However, I think deflecting arrows with the well-timed block doesn't work anymore. I grab the Become Ethereal Shout, which will be very useful for much later on, learn that we are 1 second too slow to the horn, and exit the dungeon. While outside, I return to Dawnstar for more gems when I run into the cultist. I thought being in the middle of a populated town, the cultists will be destroyed quickly. Yeah, the guards must have been in the bathroom since the cultists were able to kill the guards with ease, and a third guard just kept on running away from the remaining cultists. Well, I plant my pick into them and return to Riverwood. Back at Riverwood, I tried to get a bed on the roof. Sadly, the place does not support that, so as compensation I was invited to Delphine's secret dungeon. Not that dungeon. Then departed to Kynesgrove. Wanting to take the scenic route, I decided to walk to Windhelm. Along the pathway, not much happened, except for the tower tollkeep that left our post to chase the deer and I walked by. Thank goodness this is Skyrim and not the New Jersey Turnpike, or I would have had 100 cops after me. I was heading there, enchanted more stuff, and started to one-shot wolves and a necromancer. I had to double check my difficulty and make sure I didn't bump it down to easy. That is the power of enchantments, I guess. At Kynesgrove, I made sure to set my spawn location with a well-placed bed, then climbed the hill to the next dragon fight. I buffed up and wailed into the dragon, waking up from its dirt nap. Given that it has the case of the early mornings, it is primed for a wailing, and by the time it becomes rescaled, half its health is already gone. For the rest of the fight, it just focused on Delphine, making this encounter pretty simple. With that done, I'm going to need to be invited to another server to gather info on Esbern, so off to Solitude. At the embassy, I make sure to let the mods know that I'm a good boy, sneak into their back room, get my gear back, then grief the place. To be honest, my Breton blood is putting in the work shrugging off the attacks. That and the Thelmore wanted to use physical attacks for some reason. In the courtyard, I just book it to the jail with the Become Ethereal Shout to avoid damage. In the Solar, I just swing without a second thought. Things went well in the first room, and the Storm Atronach avoided me thankfully. At least until I get into the prison where it follows me there. Safe to say the creeper takes me within an inch of my life. Funnily enough, my biggest hurdle in the embassy wasn't the embassy itself, but what I came after. I was able to save the prisoner in Melbourne and headed into the caves. I entered the caves with 24 healing potions and thought it would be a good idea to kill the frost troll here. One 2-hit combo takes me within an inch of my life and kills Melbourne. I walked out of the cave with 2 potions. Yeah, it wasn't the best idea. After that disaster, I head out and buy potions from a lot of shops for the next few places, and also going to Dawnstar and hitting up the mines. This isn't Minecraft without a little mining. It is half the name. Sadly in here I don't get any diamonds. When I returned to Whiterun to do my crafting, Whiterun decided to enter the void and most of the textures went low poly. And when I went to the potion shop, I entered through the low poly door. Keep it jank, Skyrim. And buy a pickaxe somewhere so I can enchant them with fire enchantments, since we still have Draugr left. Would have been helpful for the frost troll, but oh well. Hindsight is only 20/20. I returned to Delphine and departed for Riften. Much like Windhelm, I decided to walk to Riften just to see the stuff that happens along the way, and also picking up something very useful along the way. During my journey, I found a dragon that was drunk flying, Well, with another dragon soul under my belt, the reason why I wanted to walk to Riften was so that way I can pick up the Atronach stone. Between shrugging off the frost troll and an increasing number of dragons and mages in general coming up, it ended up becoming a very good investment. And not too long afterwards, I get jump scared by saber cats. Several, in fact. After the cats were dealt with, nothing really happened heading into Riften. I just booked it into the sewers. Sewers went about how it normally goes, beat up some miscreants, remind Gian that there is no hand-to-hand combat tree in Skyrim, and headed into the Warrens. I run into our good friends the Thalmor, and the Atronach stone is already putting in the work. Even though I'm still running iron armor, it is still putting in the work, shrugging off their attacks and laughing at their magic. We escape with little incident and back in Riverwood, where we plan our next attack, going to Skyhaven Temple. The road to Karthspire was mostly uneventful. I tried to learn the Plateus group that spawned along the roadway to the Forest Dragon encounter, but the dragon was too interested in the Forestborn threats to pay interest. Instead of dealing with them, I just booked it inside. The dungeon crawl went very smoothly. In fact, the Briarheart was little threat and went down surprisingly easy considering their strength. Well, with some simple activities like solving an easy puzzle, forget which way to wield a knife, and listen to a lecture, now is a good time to head to Aftan for an Elder Scroll. At Winterhold, I remember that I need to talk to Septimus first, so I fall down safely to the ground below. I fall down using to become ethereal to the ground below, swim across the Arctic waters, and talk to the lunatic where the Elder Scroll is hanging out. Heading into Aftan, I reminded that the pickaxe is not meant for late area enemies, as the ice wolves around here pack a serious punch and shrug off my attacks with ease. Remembering about the ether, I just book it into the dungeon. If I am struggling with the enemies outside, I am not wanting to engage the enemy if I don't have to in here. Well, I do fight some spiders along the way since they're easy enough, but I don't fancy the Centurions. Well, along the pathway I do let Jadar fight a sphere. It was a close match, but the sphere ends up coming out on top, so I reward its efforts with a pick in the brain. I do skip the big spiral room with Become Ethereal, and for the Centurion I was wondering if I could bait the human enemies to attack the big boy. However, they are more concerned with each other than the iron giant behind them, so I just let them be and enter the nether. Down in the nether known as Blackreach, I avoid the pigment armies not wanting to invoke a war, though one does snipe me in the butt. Funnily enough, because after this encounter, the rest of the area was actually peaceful, like no enemies encountered me at all. I ignore the nether fortress and head into Mizark, push buttons from right to left, and grab the 5th Elder Scroll in Skyrim. Then depart to the throat of the world. I do make sure to grab the Clear Sky shout so I don't soft lock at the end of the game, then talk to Parthenax. Ready as I'm ever going to be, I open the bathroom break and begin the fight with Alduin. Between the potions and my armor, I am shrugging off the magical attacks like they are nothing, and this ends up becoming a pretty straightforward Alduin fight. Normally one of the hardest fights in the run, but thankfully with all my buffs and everything like that, the fight goes pretty manageable. The only thing I know that happened during the fight was that it went on for a few minutes because I'm still using a pickaxe. Well, after willing on for 3 minutes, the End Dragon wants to go to the end and leaves us behind. So to chase after it is the Peace Council time. Well, it happens. I just spam quick save and quick load to get through the dialogue options fast, and time to fight Oldvig. Well, the dragon was captured, but the most hilarious things happened.
I've been looking for you. Got something I'm supposed to deliver. Your hands only. Let's see here.
Suffice to say, I was straight up laughing for 3 full minutes since it caught me off guard, while I ride the dragon off to the final dungeon. The fortress is a pretty quick one. Not wanting to become worm food, I just sprint past everyone outside and make the discovery that Become Ethereal gives you infinite sprint, so that is very nice. Inside, I use my fire pickaxe to good use carving up the zombie heads. At this point, the Restless are outpacing my character's DPS even with all my perks and everything. Sure, the Draugrs still go down fast enough, but if I were to level it up any more since I'm only level 9 at this point and were to fight a Scourge, it probably wouldn't be enough and I would struggle immensely. Thankfully, there were some regular Draugr to make me feel better. Solve easy puzzles, since close to the end of the dungeon, I uncover the holy grail of Minecraft. Diamond! Sprint into the end portal. Thankfully, the seed was nice enough to have all the Eyes of Ender replaced. I don't want to fight a Wither and have them despawn. Inside the end, it was a nice sprint through the area, way more color than I remember. Guarding the Hall of Valor, I saw him. Herobrine. Wanting one final fight to the death, he challenges me to PvP. I at least got good with blocking and cancelling his attacks, until soon took off half my health with one power attack and one hit away from dying. Thankfully, I was banking a level up for this purpose, though he was one hit away from ending the fight, but oh well. I headbutt some ghosts, and it is time for the End Dragon. At least for the final fight, I don't have to shoot crystals anymore. I just yell at Fog until the End Dragon comes down. I had the worst of time trying to hit the bloody dragon, kept dodging all my attacks, but eventually I was able to land the dragon attack and he came down for good, and played out pretty much like the last Alduin fight, except with more allies. As soon as he lands, I chugged every potion I had and went to town. Except the fight was jank. Seems the heroes were lifting weights because they were pushing Alduin around and I would have to chase after him. Well, this never happened to me before. After pressing left mouse button for 3 minutes, the dragon was felled and the world was saved. Well, with that all done, yes, you can beat Skyrim as Steve. As for my thoughts on the run, I think the biggest advantage going on was the power of enchantment saving my butt. I put as many fortified one-hands as I could on my armor to offset the pick's low DPS. If I had not done that, the runtime would have been gone on for much longer. Another thing was that the endgame enemies were becoming tankier and the pick would have stopped being viable if I leveled up a couple more levels. Moral of the story is that, like Minecraft, enchantments are overpowered. At least 5.5 hours of the run made it pretty good in my books. Thank you all for watching this run, it was a blast. Maybe more Skyrim runs in the future, I don't know, but hopefully you all enjoy this, and see you all for the next one.